Hey everybody, welcome again to Talking Pest Management. As you probably remember, last week we interviewed CEPA President Henry Mott. Today we're continuing with part 2 of us discussing all the questions that you guys sent in. It's been a really fun and insightful interview, so tune in and enjoy the show.
By the way, a fun question of myself that I'm going to slide in. I remember the very first meeting of a small me in Brussels when I heard you open your speech. I think it was a General Assembly even, or something. Anyways, you said something about the time you invest, and you've done your bit and calculated the amounts of euros or pounds or whatever that is.
Oh God, yeah, crikey, yes,
So
yeah.
would be rather provocative, asking you, how much does a president get paid?
yeah. Well, let's make that clear. He gets paid absolutely nothing. But no, it was, I wasn't. It wasn't playing my violin or playing the violins of the people that do put the time in. If you're working for a big company, a big organization, then they'll be making that decision of saying we want, we're paying you whatever we're paying you, and we'll pay for your time to be there, and that's fine. But certainly from people like myself, and I suspect yourself as well, Daniel, when you actually work out what I contribute to my own business in terms of generating turnover and profit, etc., and I broke it all down. I was being conservative with how important I am in my own business, but I like to think I'm reasonably important. Doing this job does cost tens of thousands of pounds or tens of thousands of euros, without doubt. And I would, as I said earlier, I wouldn't be wasting that money if I didn't think there was a purpose for it that ultimately will benefit me as a small medium enterprise, as it will benefit hopefully every other small medium enterprise, as well as bigger companies out there. But they're big enough to look after themselves. But that's why we do it, because don't be under absolutely no illusion. If we just didn't do anything and just let things take their course in terms of legislation around the toolbox that we have, and the methodology behind it, and indeed even potentially the moral question about killing animals. Forget about whether they're pests or vermin or not. If we did absolutely nothing, there may not be much of an industry at all. You really, people have always said to me, okay, if you stop tomorrow and said there's no more pest control, that's it, it's finished. Within a matter of weeks, people would be being bitten, there'd be rats running around the feet, and there'd be a massive public outcry. And I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt that. But do we want to get to that stage where we've all lost our businesses, and then we have to wait several months or years before people realise it was a big mistake, and then restart again? I sometimes you have to exaggerate to make a point, but the truth of the matter is that we would be in a far more difficult place in terms of how we control pests. And this isn't just a matter of green versus biocide or digital versus this. This is about saying, well, I know obviously your business is very much heavily in trapping technology and that side of things. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that there are people that sit in quite influential places within institutions, EU institutions and other institutions, that are vehemently opposed to the use of traps in any way, shape or form.
Absolutely.
They need defending in the same way that biocides need defending. It's
true.
So
in the end, I think it's all about regulating yourself, because if you don't do so, let's get another exaggerated example here. Maybe as if you're a child and you don't clean your room for 1 or 2 years and it looks messy and all sorts of stuff laying around, and in the end you don't do it, you don't regulate yourself, then and once in every blue moon you're eventually your parents are going to come in and throw all the garbage and rubbish away, and in the end you're going to miss out. You're going to end up.
you absolutely, that is the nail on the head. Self-regulation is the only way that we're ever going to get the opinions to shift within the EU. They are not going to, the only legislation they're going to do is going to be draconian legislation. If we can go to them and we say, this is us. So this is what demonstrates a professional. This is the memorandum of understanding. This is how we operate as a professional. This is the standard that we adhere to, and all of the stuff that CEPA does. Internally, it's self-regulation. They go, okay, fine. Yeah, if you can operate within those bounds and within that, we'll give you the necessary leeway, if you want to call it that, or allow the legislation to let you operate. It is. That's how it works. That like it or not. Yeah.
If it's not us that highlight these topics and speak about them and put them into perspective, as you said, pest killing animals. In fact, what is a pest? That whole discussion of being sustainable and responsive or responsible on how we treat insects or rodents or other as pests considered animals. If we don't raise that discussion and clarify it, we might be threatened at some point in the future by another external factor that is trying to diminish us or whatever. So.
And this is when we're talking about the membership, why we became association, and what's important. If what we want to do is actively encourage our end users to get involved with CEPA, because we have Tesco, as became a member, because they understand that their businesses are at serious risk if our businesses are at serious risk.
Exactly.
They employ us to control their pests, and I think that every forward-thinking end user of our services wants us to do that in the most sustainable way possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And ultimately, their businesses are massively at risk if ours are massively at risk. So it's all mutual. It's all beneficial for everybody. That we achieve what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
But if people think the status quo will remain, and you were in Portugal, weren't you, Daniel? Were you in Portugal?
No, I couldn't.
Right, okay, yeah. Well, this is about 3 or 4 years ago. There is no status quo. Yeah, things will change. So let's make sure we're on the right side of change.
Absolutely agreed. I did say that oftentimes, but from coming from you, it's way more. It has a lot more sense to it, if you ask me, because in the end, if you are not changing anything, the change is going to be brought upon you, and in fact, you have to deal with it. It's like being on the Titanic and saying, there is an iceberg, let's change the course or anything, and then just ignoring it is just not an answer to it. We have to deal with it some way. So totally agree with you there, Henry. Yeah. Cool. That was an interesting one. So next one would be the conflict of interest with somebody putting in big checks like, Anti-Cimex, Rentokil Initial, or anybody else that's sponsored. We already checked that one. I think we are all grateful for our co-members in the end. And
I mean, I will just repeat that plea is that, if you want to become a member of CEPA, you can. It's very easy to become a member as long as you sign up to the principles and agree to obviously the rules and everything else that are in there. Please, if especially if you're in a country where you either don't have a national association, which does happen, or the national association isn't doing what you want it to do, then become a member. As long as you meet the rules. And
speaking for ourselves, maybe as a representative example, we are members at our local association, and at the same time, we are also CEPA members. Wherever you please. It's very individualistic, I guess. Cool. Okay. So another one that I think needs some highlighting, but you already did so. So maybe also briefly, what is the new MOU about? What are the goals of the MOU?
Okay. Well, let's say what the MOU isn't. It's not a contract. Yeah. A memorandum of understanding is exactly that. It's a document that you sign to say, I agree to the principles laid out within this document, but it's not a contract. Yeah. So the memorandum itself is designed to be signed by anybody and everybody that has a stakeholder interest within our industry. So that is end users, manufacturers, distributors, and pest control companies alike. You can read the detail of it, and many people do, and many people interpret small words in different ways. But fundamentally, all the MOU is saying is that I will abide by the integrated pest management method of pest control, and that I will operate as a professional pest management company. It's the hierarchy of that. That's really what it's promoting.
The triangle.
The triangle, exactly. Right at the bottom. Pest prevention in the first instance, right to the very top where we use the use of biocides potentially is required. It's as straightforward as that. There is no hidden meaning behind it. It's absolutely straightforward in what it does. But why is it important that people sign this? Well, you touched on it, and it's absolutely right. If we as an industry can't actually sign a document such as an MOU to say that's what we want to do, we want to self-regulate, and be professional. How on a national level? How on earth can we then go on an international level and say support our industry? Because the first thing they're going to do is turn around and say, well, we'd like to support it, but actually you can't even get agreement on a regional or national level. So how on earth are we going to say, we'll rubber stamp that on an international level?
On earth, yeah.
It is an absolute. It's a no-brainer, and all it takes, blatant, PR here. All it takes is go on the website, print or save it onto your desktop, add your signature to it, and send it back through the website.
Email. It doesn't have to be
email. Email. It takes literally 5 minutes, if that, to do it. You're not, and this will be one of the most powerful lobbying tools we have to protect the industry that you work in. That I imagine pays your mortgages, pays for your children's education, puts food on your table. It is important. And when we talk about what's important to CEPA, what happens with CEPA, why do I need to bother with it? Well, this is why it's important, because it's doing things like that. But just do your bit as a stakeholder in the industry and sign it.
The power of it's like the power of a vote. If nobody goes to vote, nothing happens. But we can all vote for a professional industry, and that's the ground that has been laid by you guys. So I find it extremely.
I'll be perfectly honest. If I can't achieve a reasonable level of signatures on this document across Europe, and I'm not talking tens of thousands, although no reason why it shouldn't be tens of thousands, because as I said, there's at least 40,000 PCOs operating in Europe. Let alone every end, how many, hundreds of thousands of end users of pest control services, not millions. And then all the other people as well, your manufacturers and your distributors and all the like of it. If we can't get a few thousand signatures, then I will feel that I've failed. And frankly, if as an industry we will have failed, and then we'll get what we deserve, which will be harder, faster, and tighter regulations that make our job even more difficult than perhaps it is perceived as being now.
So, how many signatures do we already have? It's
pitiful. I think we're probably in the region of about 100, and I don't know. I haven't got an update as of today, so I might be wrong. Let's say with a fair wind, and if things have actually changed, let's say we might have a couple of hundred in a year, been out for a year. And I think, and I have to say, there are some. I have no problem with people that come to CEPA and engage in terms of the MOU itself and want to talk about oh, well, we're not really happy with this word, or not really happy, because that tells me at least they're paying an interest. Yeah. Now, it might be the case of saying, that all of my convincing, or all of the convincing of the secretariat in essence, but the board of saying, well, actually, it doesn't mean that, it means this, and what you're perceiving there isn't right. If those small people say, oh, we just don't feel we can sign it, then I'll accept. I totally accept that. Yeah. I don't agree with it, but I totally accept it. But what I can't accept is apathy. Yeah. That people that just simply don't have heard about it, but have absolutely no interest in just making that smaller bit of effort.
It's the Titanic effect. There is eventually, somewhere in the next 10 or 15 years, something is going to come that is going to, force regulation upon us without our interference if we would not sign it. So
and then there'll be people there that will be coming out and saying, "Oh, it's a disgrace. Why has this happened? How can you, how can you, whoever you is, how can you allow this to happen?" Yeah. And they will. And I'll be long gone, hopefully, until not dead, but
no.
feet up the chimney, smoking a pipe, and reading the newspaper. But
deserve it.
Yeah, but that's the truth, yeah. And it's we talk about these different generations, don't we? Generation Z and Generation X and this, that, and the other, and whatever generation it is, we'll find, if we don't do this, we'll find that they'll be having to embark on a different career.
Yep, absolutely. That's facts.
That's facts, yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that bit we should actually take out of this video interview and put on the top of every CEPA newsletter every single time, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, every newsletter has a sign the MOU on it. But like I say, it is, there's too much emphasis put on the few people that have read it and for whatever reason won't sign it, as opposed to the people that haven't actually even bothered even reading it, or if they have read it, haven't simply signed it. So let's take our, this I'm speaking here probably to my own board and to the actual direct membership of CEPA, is to say, let's not worry about the one or two people that find that for whatever reason they can't sign it. Let's start getting upset with those that simply haven't bothered.
So we should maybe get some help from our friends that own a little bit of the PR machine, like the magazines and the newsletters and stuff like that, and maybe they'd help us. Perhaps. They I hope they would. I'm sure they would. Yeah. I'm going to keep it in mind. So the next one is, it's a very obvious one. It's all the, green badging, the big buzzwords of this year until 2030 is obviously everything is sustainable and green. Everything is digitized or digital or whatever, tech. So these two buzzwords do not really go hand in hand per se, as per our impression of pest control the past years and decades, with a service industry that also uses biocides as one of their tools in the toolbox. So we can't use these, in my opinion, we can't use just, these buzzwords and put them upon our industry and say, no, we're a totally different industry now. We did change. But for some extent, they already play a big role in most of the companies. Actually, if you go on the websites of Anticimex, Rentokil, or name some other big brands out there that are reigning in Europe, they all have the word sustainability, prevention, and smart digital connect IoT on their websites. So it seems to be already a part. Even the manufacturers that some think are so old school, like Bayer, they are not. They, on their website, they have a smart system. If you Google it, they are very well prepared for all of these things. So I do think we are underestimated when it comes to these things, because we do give or are interested in transforming. What is your opinion?
Well, I'll speak. This is me speaking personally, not CEPA, because my CEPA stand my CEPA stand is actually my personal stand is that we need access to as many things as we can. But I had an interesting conversation about a month ago with it was an investment business. They're ringing up, they're wanting information, they want to invest in an aspect of our industry, and they obviously, I mentioned no names, but they said, why is it that company X, which seems to be the number one market leader in terms of innovation and ahead of the curve in terms of delivering its service, this company, surely it should be just a case of, well, they'll just clean up the market. They're on the right wavelength. They've got all this internet, all the things you touched about, the digital world and everything else. And I said, well, yeah, on the face of it, you think, well, okay, then. So they've got the technology, they've got the branding, so they're well known, well recognized, and they've got the funding, behind it, because let's face it, a lot of these digital enterprises are not cheap. You've got to put, there is a significant amount of upfront money, no doubt, why are they not just simply walking around, grabbing money off the magic money tree? My opinion on this is that the reality of it is that pest control, within most of the clients that we deal with, and most of certainly my clients, and I think the vast majority of companies, it's actually small beer, it's small money in terms of their overall spend.
In the budget, yep.
Yeah, so what do these clients actually, what are they actually looking at? Yeah, well, the reason that they're buying off that, the small medium company as opposed to going to this big one that has all of this flashy stuff is because they're buying that person. They're buying that technician that's servicing that site that they have trust and respect for, who delivers what they want, which is a pest-free environment.
Yep. Trust,
100%. Yeah. And delivering what they say they're going to deliver. So even it doesn't apply necessarily to some of your multinational big businesses that will only look at those major companies because they're the only ones that can deliver on that scale. And let's face it, there's a very few across Europe that can actually do that. So this business is still about people delivering to people. People buy from people. So when you talk about that digital technology that's going into that end user is almost totally reliant on and believes, quite rightly in most cases, I'm sure, believes that what he's being told by his supplier is the right thing.
Yep.
And his supplier will have a way of doing it. And that really, and unless legislation change that prevents him from doing it the way he's going to do it, the way he's doing it, why is he going to do anything different?
Yeah.
In reality, unless one, by employing a technology, it means that he can make more money as a supplier.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all in business, and we're not in business to yeah. I remember he was an old salesman for pest control pest control distributor who's long gone now, it was to do with some bonus scheme about if you did this and you did that, and then you get this much and all the discount, and I sort of found out about it retrospectively, and I went to him and I said, well, how come company X that's down the road that you're supplying gets these deals and I'm not? Yeah. And he said, well, now you brought to my attention, I'm more than happy to give you these deals, but my job is not to give away money. My job's to make money. and I'm not, and I know people say, oh, it's a bit old fashioned, but in essence, he's right. Businesses aren't just simply going to go in and say, oh, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in a digital trap. Yeah. This trap will do everything that I can do. Yeah. And it's only going to cost you 25% of what I'm charging at the moment. Mm-hmm. It ain't going to happen. Yeah.
No.
Simple as that. So when you look at these companies, so a lot of them are bringing in some of the more digital kind of things, but it's very small piecemeal. So going back to really what I'm trying to say is that I actually think that the people that, and yourself is included in this, and please don't think I'm being presumptuous in telling you how to do your job, but for me, if I'm a product manufacturer or a biocide manufacturer for that matter, and I've got something new that I think is brilliant and should be the thing in the marketplace, why are you relying on pest controllers to market that for you? Because their job is not sell biocides or to sell products. Their job is to sell pest management. Yeah. If it was me, I'd be going, no, I'm going to market these to the end users, because then the end users will be driving it, and then they'll be the ones that will say, no, unless you're offering me this high-tech solution, then I'm not. And that's where it'll come. I actually think that's where you'll see the change come, is when end users on a bigger scale are starting to demand this more.
Absolutely agree. Funnily enough, that's one very important point on our agenda that you just got there, because I mean, everybody has their agenda and needs to make money, as you said, as the old salesman. But a pest controller per se in this transformation, I want to say, is a so-called gatekeeper. So why should they drive it upon their clients if it in short term might be even lowering their margins, because they need to put money on the table for some high-end products maybe, if the client doesn't ask for it. So why change? It's the Titanic effect again. In the long run,
and this is, and people can argue. People might say to me, "Oh, you're just being old-fashioned, Henry." And that's a terrible way to run your business. And surely you should be looking for all of the best things for your clients, irrespective of how much work and effort that goes to you. But the truth of the matter is that on a daily basis, and there's it's people don't like change. Customers are wanting one thing. They want, as long as the service is delivering what they want it to deliver, and they're satisfied with the price, and it doesn't break any rules or regulations. If I then go in and then I'm saying, oh well, actually, what I want to do is I want to sell you a new digitized service, because it's going to. I might do it if I think, well, this is worth my while because I'm going to make more profit out of this. Mm-hmm. But if the end result is that I'm going to sell you this service, it means I'm going to have to either charge the same, but go through the effort of selling it to you, or charge potentially even less, or earn even less profit. There's not a great incentive. Mm-hmm. The incentive will come when the consumer says,
"I want this."
Yeah, I'm no longer prepared to have any form of biocide on my side. Let's give that as an example. Yeah. And I know that actually without the use of biocides, because I've been through the hierarchy, this is going to be very difficult because of whatever reasons on that side. What am I going to do? How am I going to keep this customer happy? That's what will drive it. That's what will be a sea change. It'll be end users. Yeah, it's not going to happen. And I just think as manufacturers, I know I'm repeating myself, but I think as manufacturers of products and things, I think to a certain extent you put too much effort into marketing yourselves to the likes of me. Yeah, but there's at the moment while we're talking, there's the Pestex, the online Pestex going on there. Yeah. And yeah, you look at the list of everybody that's on there and who and what the market. Yeah, they have to do this. And it's a great event, but I wonder how much the people that are attending that, whether they attend it when it's a physical conference or even online, are more interested in the in gaining CPD points, professional development points, or listening to lectures that are given on I don't know, legislation rather than actually sitting there in front of a manufacturer that's got a new plastic box that they're saying is going to change the world.
Exactly. Absolutely. In the end, obviously I totally agree with you 100% actually. Then again, there are, of course, ways, of learning how the cookie crumbles, because all of the big businesses, like, again, Rentokil and NSC, make some free PR here for you guys, that have learned how to lucratively market these solutions, because they're very much corporate. A corporate knows their numbers, so they know what they're investing and why. They're not doing it just because of PR. They're doing it because they actually can earn money with it. And this is actually how the cookie crumbles. And some businesses get it. Oh, wow, we can make money with it if we ask the client to pay more, et cetera, et cetera. But anything, as long as it's legal and takes you from, I'll give you another example. I can buy a Tesla and go from A to B without CO2 emissions directly, obviously indirectly over, the production, etc. But I could also buy a lorry legally, which, consumes a lot of diesel, or a Ferrari that has a huge gas consumption. And it would still be okay. So there is still many. It's like deciding what to eat today. There's vegetarians, vegans, and there's people that love it.
And this maybe we're coming around to the problem with the MOU.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I hope I'm wrong, but maybe that after these 40,000 pest control companies are out there, there's many that will say, "No, I don't want the Tesla. I'm going to drive a lorry."
Yeah, and I don't even understand the Tesla.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna. So effectively, IPM's not for me. In reality, I'll talk about it, but it's not really for me, and I'm not going to sign a document because the first sign of trouble, I'm taking the easy option.
There you go. And again, who owns the companies? It's more. My mom, for instance, wouldn't go and buy a Tesla. Diesel SUV, whatever. But who owns the companies? It's rarely the people that are 25 years young and want to have a Tesla.
No, God, talk about hypocritical. I look out my window and I see my big V8 truck, which I love, and So who am I to preach? Perhaps. So yeah, maybe.
But good and interesting point. It's always it's very interesting always to philosophically touch that one. Okay, the last one that we have is CEPA only for the big companies? I think we clarified it oftentimes enough.
We answered them.
The past couple of points, but we touched 11 now, maybe even 12 if I miscounted. I think that's about it for the first one. What we could do, first of all, I think we're going to split that one in two. But people, if you're watching, send in your questions. Send them to me on LinkedIn, send it to Henry, send it to the CEPA Secretariat, to Jonah. Hi, Jonah. And we're going to do another one. And we're going to answer every single one of your questions, even if they are around the MOU, which you please look at and sign.
But I think, it'd be really enjoyable talking to you. And when if I watch these things back, I often think, oh God, I'm contradicting myself there, and maybe I shouldn't have said that. I think the point I want to make, the final point I make to anybody that does watch this that isn't a member of CEPA, is to say, look, we're all human. We've all got our good bits and our bad bits, and when an organisation is no different. The thing about it is don't throw in stones from the sidelines when you don't like what you say. Just get involved, because you can. It is not some sort of organisation that is only for a fortunate few that work in big companies or have got contacts.
Open doors.
Exactly. Yeah. And as an open door, what I've often done, and I'm more than happy to extend this to anybody once we're over and we can actually start meeting physically again, is that somebody has a genuine interest in joining CEPA. As I said earlier, we have our meetings often in the EU institution, which is a great experience in its own right, to be able to go into the heart of Brussels, although being a UK citizen now, that's not so relevant for me, but I still enjoy it nonetheless. Get an experience of it, come along, see how the meetings run, and if it's not for you, okay, fine, it's not for you. But if it is for you and you think, I can actually play a good role here and be beneficial, all you got to do is write out a small check and you're part of it.
If that's not an invite, people, I don't know what it is. Henry, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, and more power to your Talking Pest. Have you got many more lined up then for the next month or so?
Oh, yeah, many actually.
Yeah.
we reduced the we don't do it weekly anymore because it was too much for the people to just to come after. But we've now limited ourselves to 1 or maybe 2 in the month, and it does get appreciated very much. So we have a long list of people, indeed. Yeah. So it's been really great, that experience in delivering our bit to the industry in this.
Well, yeah, no, appreciated. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Henry. I really look forward when you and I are going to sit on somewhere on a bar stool in some studio and go ones in person again.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so
Take care.
much.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
You
See you
too.
later.